Professor Quine, what do you regard as the central task or tasks of philosophy?
I think of philosophy as concerned with our knowledge of the world and the nature of the world. I think of philosophy as attempting to round out the system of the world, as Newton put it. There have been philosophers who have thought of philosophy as somehow separate from science and as providing a firm basis on which to build science. But this I consider an empty dream. Science, much of science, is firmer than philosophy is or can even perhaps aspire to be. I think of philosophy as continuous with science, even as a part of science.
Well, if it's continuous with science and even part of science, how does it differ from the rest of science?
It differs in generality and in abstractness. Science is a continuum extending from history and engineering at one end, if we think of science broadly, to such abstract pursuits as philosophy and mathematics at the other. Philosophy considers the question of the nature of cause, for instance, where physics contents itself with finding causal relations between specific sorts of events, biology between other sorts of events. Again, whereas the zoologist will tell us that there are wombats and the physicist will tell us that there are electrons, the mathematician will tell us there are no end of prime numbers, the philosopher is interested rather in what sorts of things there are altogether. It's in these ways that philosophy is more abstract in general.
In other words, the philosopher is investigating what constitutes the connective tissue of everyone's thought, including other people's thought, so that the physicist is trying to find out whether or not A causes B, but the philosopher is saying, well, but what does it mean to say that anything causes anything? The physicist is trying to find out, say, what particular subatomic particles there are. And the philosopher says, but what does it mean to say of anything that it exists?
Yes.
It's at this level of complete generality that the philosopher's investigations occur. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, do you include in this, or do you exclude from it, the age-old questions of how the world got here in the first place, or how life began?
I exclude these from philosophy. How the world began is a problem for the physicist and astronomer, and of course there have been conjectures from that quarter. How life began is a problem for the biologist, on which he's made notable progress in recent years. Why the world began, why life began, on the other hand, I think are pseudo questions, because I can't imagine what an answer would look like.
And you think that because there's no conceivable answer to these questions, they are, so to speak, meaningless questions?
Yes.
Yes. So in other words, you regard the central tasks of philosophy as the analysis and elucidation of concepts that are central to various fields of human activity, and also, in particular, notions like what it is for something to be a cause of something else, what it is for something to exist, what it is for something to be, shall we say, a scientific law, the most general notions that are, as it were, the connecting tissue of thought, and that we have to use and have to employ in the specific activities that people like scientists, or it could even be politicians, lawyers, and so on, are engaged in. Is that a correct way of putting your view?
Yes, I would agree with that.